Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
The story opens on a stormy night at sea. Amid crashing waves, a lifeless body drifts silently in the water. Nearby, aboard a small fishing vessel, the crew is playing cards, unaware of the figure floating outside. When one of them tosses trash overboard, the current reveals the body. 5 fishermen rush to haul the man aboard. At first, they think he's already dead, but a closer look proves otherwise. They lay him flat on their card table and call for their on-board medic. The doctor quickly discovers the man has multiple bullet wounds. With nothing but a knife, he painstakingly extracts the bullets. Then, something unusual catches his eye, a scar on his hip. Curious, he makes an incision and pulls out a tiny metallic object. To his shock, it contains the details of a Swiss bank account in Zurich. Before he can process this discovery, the patient suddenly wakes.
Where am I?
Grabbing the doctor by the throat, he demands answers. The medic, trying to calm him, introduces himself as Giancarlo and assures him he's among friends. But the man is still at a loss. He doesn't recognize the object, doesn't know where he is, and most importantly, doesn't even know his own name. Meanwhile, across the ocean, at CIA headquarters in Langley, the mood is tense. Ted Conklin, head of covert operations, is informed about a failed assassination attempt. The target was Wombosi, an exiled African dictator. Back on the fishing boat, the mysterious man doesn't sit idle during his recovery. Despite his memory loss, he demonstrates remarkable skills, whether it's physical strength, combat reflexes, or sheer resourcefulness. Yet the one thing he cannot grasp is his own identity. The doctor reassures him that memory may return with time, but the man's restlessness only grows. At dawn, the vessel docks in Switzerland. Before parting ways, the doctor gives him some money, wishing him luck. With only loose cash, the metallic clue, and a growing list of unanswered questions, the stranger boards a train to Zurich. He has nowhere to stay and ends up sleeping in a public park. When police officers wake him, demanding identification, he tries to explain his situation, but they dismiss his words. Suddenly, as if a hidden instinct takes over, he springs into action. Within seconds, both policemen are on the ground. Shocked at his own reflexes, he flees into the night. Elsewhere, high-ranking officials at CIA and military gather to discuss the botched assassination. On a nearby screen, Wombosi publicly accuses the U.S. of trying to kill him and threatening his family. While some dismiss his speech as bluster, the tension is undeniable. After the meeting, Deputy Director Abbott corners Conklin, pressing him for answers. Conklin admits the truth. One of his assassins went rogue during the mission. For the first time in his career, Conklin has lost control. Meanwhile, the amnesiac arrives at the Swiss bank linked to the implant. He's granted access to a safety deposit box. Inside, he discovers a passport with his photograph and the name Jason Bourne. But there's more. Hidden beneath a false bottom lies a cache of weapons, stacks of cash in various currencies, and multiple passports, all with his face but under different names. One alias stands out, John Michael Caine. Confronted with this baffling collection of identities, the man makes a decisive choice. He will embrace the name Jason Bourne. But deep down, the mystery of who he truly is has only just begun. Jason reacts instantly, locking into a brutal fight with Castell. The agent lunges with a knife, but Jason's reflexes are razor sharp. He sidesteps the blade and counters with the only thing at hand, a pen. With deadly precision, he turns the simple object into a weapon, striking back until Castell is disarmed. The clash ends with Jason sending his attacker crashing across the room. Wasting no time, he pins him down and demands answers. Who sent him? But before he can extract the truth, Marie uncovers something chilling in Castell's bag. Photos of Marie and Jason. Shock flashes across her face. That moment of distraction is all Castell needs. He throws himself over the railing, ending the fight on his own terms. The chaos deepens when Jason and Marie rush downstairs. only to find the kind woman who had welcomed them moments earlier now lying dead, executed.
Meanwhile, at Langley, Conklin gets grim news from Nikki. Castell is gone, and the mission has failed. Back in Europe, Jason and Marie head to a crowded train station. Jason pleads with her to walk away, to turn herself into the police before it's too late, but Marie refuses. She's already too entangled in his dangerous world. Police units start swarming the station, and Jason gives her one last chance to escape. Instead, she chooses to stay by his side. In a desperate bid to survive, Jason hijacks a car and speeds off with Marie. Sirens wail as the chase begins, squad cars and motorcycles closing in from all sides. Jason drives like a man possessed, darting into narrow alleys and weaving through impossible gaps. His precision behind the wheel leaves even the most seasoned officers in the dust. With one final reckless maneuver, he loses their trail, crashing into an underground parking lot where they hide, breathless but alive. Back at CIA headquarters, Conklin scrambles. He concocts a plan to cover his tracks by planting a body and passing it off as John Michael Caine. But Wombosi, sharp and unyielding, isn't fooled. Furious and suspicious, he becomes a ticking bomb for the CIA. Conklin has no choice but to unleash his deadliest operative, the Professor, tasking him with eliminating Wombosi before the truth gets out. While the CIA tightens its grip, Jason and Marie lie low. Jason dyes her hair, alters their looks, and maps their next move. At dawn, Marie wakes to find Jason planning to send her into the hotel where John Michael Caine had once stayed. With Jason's coaching, her charm wins over the staff, and she retrieves the records they need. Back in Langley, the tension escalates. Abbott confronts Conklin about Wombosi's death, demanding answers. Conklin spins his web of lies, shifting the blame squarely onto Jason, framing him as the assassin tying up loose ends. As Jason studies the retrieved information, the puzzle pieces begin to click. Reports reveal Wombosi had survived an assassination attempt on his yacht. The attacker shot twice in the back before escaping. Jason's face hardens as the realization sets in. He was that assassin. The noose tightens. Police locate Jason and Marie's abandoned car. The CIA intercepts the report, racing to close in. Forced to abandon their cab and escape on foot through twisting alleys, Jason and Marie eventually make their way to a countryside home owned by Marie's friend, Eamon, who lives there with his children. For the first time in days, they find a moment of fragile shelter. But back at Langley, Conklin is running out of time. Abbott's pressure mounts, and the CIA's hunt intensifies. Conklin orders his agents to bring Jason in at all costs, escalating the deadly game to its highest stakes yet. After hours of tense surveillance, the CIA finally pinpoints Marie's location. Without hesitation, Conklin dispatches his deadliest asset, the Professor, with orders to eliminate. The next morning, as Jason and Marie prepare to leave Eamon's farmhouse, something feels off. The family dog vanishes. Jason's instincts flare, and he immediately senses danger. Though Eamon is frustrated and confused, Jason's cold, commanding tone convinces him to take his children and retreat to the basement. The tension escalates when they discover the house phone line has been cut. Marie panics, but Jason remains calm, promising to protect them all. Acting fast, he creates a diversion, shooting an oil tanker and triggering a fiery explosion. Using the chaos as cover, he sprints into the woods. Hidden at a distance, the Professor, perched with his sniper rifle, locks on to Jason. Shot after shot misses its mark as Jason uses the terrain to his advantage. The hunter quickly realizes the roles are shifting. He has now become the hunted. Jason circles around, setting another diversion, and seizes the moment. A brutal chase ends with Jason shooting the Professor, leaving him fatally wounded. With his final breaths, the assassin reveals a grim truth. They both work for Treadstone. Jason now has confirmation of the shadowy organization pulling the strings. He orders Marie, Eamon, and the children to flee to safety. Determined to end the nightmare, Jason digs through the Professor's gear and finds a phone. Dialing the last number, he shocks the CIA when Conklin himself picks up, only to hear Jason's voice instead of the Professor's. Jason demands a one-on-one meeting in Paris. At the arranged spot, Jason surveys the scene. His instincts confirm it's a trap. Agents everywhere. Instead of walking into it, he planted tracker on one of their vans, tailing it back to Treadstone's Paris safe house. Realizing their cover is blown, Conklin orders Nikki and the others to shred files and torch evidence. But Jason is already inside. One by one, car alarms shriek across the block, communication lines go dead, and the building loses power. Conklin knows who's behind it. Gun in hand, he ventures out, only to be ambushed. Jason easily disarms him. At last, face to face, Jason demands the truth. Conklin insists they were once allies, until Jason failed his mission against Wombosi. The words triggered Jason's memories. He had infiltrated Wombosi's yacht as John Michael Caine and was poised to kill. But when he saw Wombosi's children, he couldn't pull the trigger. The mission collapsed, the yacht erupted in violence, and Jason barely escaped with his life. The guilt and disillusionment are too heavy to ignore. Jason throws down his weapon and declares he is finished with Treadstone. Before leaving, he warns Conklin never to pursue him again. Conklin doesn't get the chance. On his way out, Jason is forced to fight through agents, knocking them out before vanishing into the night. Moments later, Conklin himself steps into the open street, only to be executed by Mannheim on Abbott's orders. With Conklin gone, Abbott shuts down Treadstone and shifts focus to a new Black Ops project, Blackbrier. Jason, meanwhile, reunites with Marie in a heartfelt embrace. For a brief time, they find peace. But 2 years later, peace proves fragile. Jason wakes drenched in sweat from nightmares that don't feel like dreams. Flashes of operations, names, places, and blood. Marie worries over his burning fever, insisting it's just his mind playing tricks. But Jason knows better. These fragments are real, pieces of a life he's been running from. Marie encourages him to write everything down, just as they've done before, building a fragile map of his lost past. While Jason battles ghosts across Europe, the CIA prepares for its next storm. In Berlin, Deputy Director Pamela Landy leads a secret op, offering $3 million to a Russian informant in exchange for the Nevsky files, critical evidence about the theft of $20 million years ago. But the deal goes horribly wrong. Kirill, a ruthless Russian operative, infiltrates the meeting site, planting explosives. When the building erupts in chaos, Kirill executes the informant, takes the files, and escapes with the cash. Later, he meets with his employer, Yuri Gritkov, a powerful Russian oligarch. Their alliance sets the stage for a new deadly hunt, and Jason Bourne is about to be dragged back into the game. Yuri, pleased with Kirill's success, hands him a new target, Jason Bourne. Now in India, Jason spots Kirill parking a car and slipping into a shop. Sensing danger, he races back to Marie, who's at the beach, hustles her into our Jeep, and they speed off. Kirill sees them and gives chase. Jason drives with desperate precision through India's congested streets and tight alleys. Then loses him briefly by cutting across a field. Kirill pursues on foot, rifle in hand. Jason orders Marie to take the wheel and tells her to return home while he deals with the threat. She pleads with him not to risk his life. Before he can act, Kirill finds a clear shot. He fires. The bullet hits Marie. The Jeep careens off the bridge and plunges into the river. Jason drags the reef from the sinking vehicle, but it's too late. She's gone. Kirill looks into the water, believes his mission complete, and leaves. Jason surfaces alone, stunned and racked with grief. Back at Langley, CIA analysts lift prints from the failed transaction in Berlin, but run into a Treadstone dead end when they try to match them. In India, Jason watches as the wrecked Jeep is hauled from the river. In a ritual of mourning and rage, he burns Marie's pictures and papers, gathers every last dollar and weapon he and Marie had owned, and prepares for revenge. Deputy Director Pamela Landy digs deeper in Langley. She traces fingerprints from the crime scene and, with Director Marshall's approval, accesses Treadstone's archive files. She soon uncovers a connection to Ward Abbott. When she confronts him, he downplays Treadstone, calling it discommissioned, but Pamela counters with evidence linking Jason to recent killings. Meanwhile, Kirill reports to Yuri that the job is done. Jason lands in Germany, but his passport flags him in the system. Security detains him. Pamela briefs top brass about the Berlin operation, and suspecting Conklin's corruption, she believes Jason and Conklin were partners who covered up evidence by killing agents. She mobilizes a manhunt when Jason's passport pings German systems. During questioning, a U.S. official receives a warning about Jason's danger. Before backup can arrive, Jason acts, subdues his guards, taps the official's phone, and steals a car. He overhears operatives discussing Pamela's approach and learns she's headed to Germany. Racing to Munich, he flashes back to fragments of Treadstone operations and Conklin's role. In Munich, he confronts Yarda, a former Treadstone agent. Bound and struggling, Yarda offers nothing useful about Conklin's current schemes. The two clash violently. Jason improvises a brutal fight, ultimately escaping just as CIA agents close in. He rigs the place to explode and slips away before it goes up.
Jason follows Pamela to Berlin, tails her convoy, and scopes out her office from a rooftop. From there, he sets up a rifle and calls her, demanding answers. "Why is the CIA hunting me?" Pamela informs Jason about the Berlin incident, insisting he killed 2 people. Jason, however, is haunted by his flashbacks and realizes they're confusing him with another operation. When he notices Nikki inside the CIA office, he shocks Pamela by revealing that he can see her standing next to her. Jason then declares he'll surrender, but only if he can meet Nikki privately. Ward Abbott argues furiously against it, warning how dangerous Bourne is, but Pamela pushes forward. Nikki is placed at the meeting site, surrounded by guards and snipers. A nearby protest complicates visibility, creating chaos. As Nikki receives instructions to board a tram, Jason, concealed in the crowd, seizes the moment. He intercepts her and escapes the CIA net. In an underground station, Jason presses Nikki for answers. She insists the CIA isn't trying to kill him, but Jason suspects otherwise, especially after Marie's death. He demands clarity about Berlin. Nikki reveals he never had a mission there, deepening Jason's doubts about the CIA story. At Langley, Ward continues urging Jason's elimination, while Pamela insists on answers over blood. Jason follows the trail himself. In a cafe, he researches the name Nevsky, discovering he was a Russian politician who died mysteriously in a hotel room. Meanwhile, Conklin's former assistant grows suspicious of reports framing Jason. Before he can tell Pamela, Ward kills him. Jason visits the hotel tied to Nevsky's death. Inside the room, vivid memories crash back. On Conklin's orders, he assassinated Nevsky, then shot his wife and staged the scene. As the police and CIA close in, Jason flees through the streets, darting across tracks and onto a passing barge, narrowly escaping. Later, Ward contacts Yuri, admitting Jason must die before Pamela uncovers the truth. Jason suddenly appears behind him, having overheard everything. Cornered, Ward confesses he stole millions, ordered Kirill to recover files, and frame Jason. Enraged, Jason nearly kills him, but pulls back saying Marie wouldn't have wanted it. Ward taunts him, but when Pamela arrives to confront him, Ward swallows poison and dies in her presence. Jason slips away. Pamela soon uncovers a recording of Ward and Yuri, cementing the corruption. Meanwhile, Jason boards a train for Moscow. There he tracks down the address of Nevsky's daughter, but the police are already closing in. Kirill ambushes him, wounding him in the shoulder. A brutal chase tears through Moscow streets, with Jason fending off both police and Kirill. Their duel ends in a tunnel, where Jason crashes Kirill's jeep into a divider. Jason approaches, gun in hand, but seeing his enemy fatally wounded, he spares him and vanishes. Eventually, Jason reaches Nevsky's daughter. He confesses the truth about her parents' deaths, offering a heartfelt apology before disappearing again. Back in New York, Jason contacts Pamela by phone. She thanks him for the evidence he left behind, which exposed corruption at the highest level. As a gesture, she shares his true identity, David Webb, born in Nixa, Missouri. She asks to meet him, but Jason, secretly watching her from a rooftop, tells her she looks tired and should get some rest. Then just as quickly, he melts back into the crowd. 6 weeks later, Jason resurfaces in Moscow. Injured but unbroken, he slips through the city as the police close in, patching himself up in a pharmacy and evading capture with ruthless efficiency. Flashbacks continue to torment him, fragments of his training, the faceless program that made him a weapon. At Langley, director Ezra Kramer convenes a meeting. Listening to Abbott's recorded confession, the CIA hierarchy reels at the depth of the rot within their ranks. Still, Kramer warns that Jason Bourne remains a threat, because somewhere out there, David Webb is still searching for the truth. CIA Director Kramer stresses the urgency of finding Jason Bourne, dropping a chilling line, "My number one rule, Hope for the best, plan for the worst. Meanwhile in New York, journalist Simon Ross meets a source who whispers about a shadowy program called Blackbrier. Ross senses a story that could blow the lid off something massive. Elsewhere, Jason quietly visits Martin Kreutz, Marie's brother. With heavy guilt, he tells him that Marie is dead and that he avenged her by killing the man responsible. Back at the airport, Ross calls a colleague, revealing that his informant knows far too much, including classified details on both Jason Bourne and Blackbrier. The call sets off alarms across CIA channels until it lands on the desk of Deputy Director Noah Vossen. Treating the situation as an NSA Level 4 emergency, Vossen orders full surveillance on Ross. Bourne's attention is soon drawn when he sees Ross's article, his name and Marie's, splashed across The Guardian. Realizing the informant's information is legitimate, Jason sets out to find the source. Ross, unaware that every step is being tracked, gets a call on a colleague's phone. It's Jason. Using this burner line, Jason arranges a secret meeting at a train station. The CIA scrambles, deploying surveillance teams and a Blackbrier assassin to intercept Ross. At the crowded station, Jason shadows the journalist, slipping a phone into his pocket. Through whispered instructions, he guides Ross through the chaos, warning him of agents on his tail. Panic spreads among the CIA when they realize they can't tap into this call. Despite Jason's precise directions, Ross's nerves betray him. He bolts, drawing the CIA's attention. Jason intercepts pursuing agents with brutal efficiency, but Ross disobeys a critical order and runs straight into the open. From a sniper's perch, Blackbrier asset Paz takes the shot. Ross collapses instantly, dead. Jason barely has time to snatch the papers from Ross's jacket before escaping. He spots Paz in the distance, and though the two men don't fight, they exchange a silent recognition. Later, Jason pores over Ross's notes in an internet cafe. Two phrases stand out: Blackbrier and "It all started with Jason Bourne." Following clues, Jason traces a lead to an investment banking office, but police sirens force him to retreat. Meanwhile, Ross's informant panics at the news of the reporter's death, fleeing with a cache of top-secret Blackbrier documents. At Langley, Ezra Kramer reluctantly brings Pamela Landy into the crisis. She immediately asserts that Bourne is the most dangerous target they've ever faced. Using phone data, she quickly identifies the leak, Neil Daniels, stationed in Italy, perfectly aligned with Ross's last flight pattern. But as always, Jason is a step ahead. Inside Daniels' building, he's hit by brutal flashbacks of his early days in the program, memories of being tortured and conditioned into an assassin. Before he can recover, CIA teams close in. Jason neutralizes agents with lightning precision, only to find Nikki Parsons hiding nearby. As he holds her at gunpoint, the phone rings. It's Vossen. Nikki lies, claiming she's alone. Vossen doesn't believe her, promising backup in minutes. Thinking fast, Jason uses a clever trick, firing shots into the street and calling the local police to report armed men. When the CIA squad storms the building, they're met by police who mistake them for hostiles, allowing Jason and Nikki to slip away undetected. Elsewhere, Vossen explains to Pamela that Daniels oversaw Blackbrier operations in Southern Europe and North Africa, meaning he holds critical knowledge, names, intelligence, and classified details. In a quiet cafe, Jason and Nikki talk. Jason shows her a photograph asking about a man standing next to Daniels. Nikki claims ignorance, but Jason recognizes him as someone from his earliest days in training. Nikki then reveals a horrifying truth. Before Jason, no one had survived the program's brutal psychological breakdown and behavioral reprogramming. He was the first. Meanwhile, at CIA headquarters, Daniels is tracked down. A Blackbrier operative, Desh, receives orders to eliminate him. When Nikki tries hacking into their system for intel, she's blocked, managing only to extract Desh's photo. Jason and Nikki begin tailing Desh through the streets, while Vossen, realizing Nikki's interference, gives a chilling new command. Once Daniels is dealt with, Desh is to eliminate both Jason and Nikki. Pamela protests, but Vossen ignores her, forcing her to walk away in frustration. Desh makes his move, planting a bag near a car as Daniels arrives. Jason intercepts, but realizes too late. It's a trap. The bag detonates in a massive explosion, killing Daniels instantly and blasting Jason off his feet.
Stunned and injured, he wakes up just in time to see Desh fleeing on a motorbike.
Jason commandeers a bike of his own, weaving through chaotic traffic and evading both police and surveillance teams in a pulse-pounding chase across the city. Meanwhile, Desh spots Nikki and stalks her through a crowded marketplace. She slips into an alley, trying to stay quiet, but soon finds herself cornered. Jason charges across rooftops, smashing through apartments in relentless pursuit. Finally, he crashes through a window, confronting Desh in a brutal hand-to-hand showdown. Both men are highly trained, Treadstone versus Blackbrier. The fight is vicious, raw, and evenly matched, but Jason ultimately gains the upper hand, taking Desh down for good. With Desh dead, Jason and Nikki fake their own deaths, tricking Vosen into believing the mission was complete. Still, Noah demands proof, while Ezra reminds him that Pamela Landy was brought in to shield higher-ups if things collapse. Later, Jason admits to Nikki that he remembers every single life he's taken, the weight of guilt pressing heavily on him. She listens quietly as he leaves her at a station, continuing his search for answers. At CIA headquarters, Pamela digs deeper into Treadstone files and uncovers the name of Albert Hirsch, the program's chief medical officer. Meanwhile, Jason examines Daniel's belongings at the morgue, finding an address for a CIA safe house. When word reaches Vosen that Bourne is still alive, panic sets in. Jason arrives in New York, positioning himself across from CIA headquarters. Through binoculars, he spies on both Pamela and Noah. He watches Noah stash files in a safe and boldly calls Pamela. Their conversation is tense, yet oddly humane. She thanks him for the recording, reveals his true name, David Webb, and gives him a coded message. The CIA, monitoring the call, realizes Bourne is close. A full-scale alert goes out. Shoot on sight. Jason breaks into the CIA office, cracks open Noah's safe, and retrieves classified files. When Noah finds his office breached, his control unravels. Jason narrowly escapes a barrage of agents, launching stolen vehicles into traffic and improvising his way through a rooftop car park. There, he collides with Paz, leading to a destructive car chase. In the end, Jason corners Paz, but spares him, asking if he even knows why he was ordered to kill. Then, Jason heads for the Treadstone training facility. Outside, he entrusts the stolen files to Pamela, believing she'll do the right thing. Inside, he confronts Albert Hirsch. The shocking truth emerges. Jason wasn't forced into the program, he volunteered. Dog tags confirm his identity. Memories flood back of him agreeing to do whatever it took to save American lives. Disgusted with what he has become, Jason refuses Hirsch's manipulations. With agents closing in, he escapes to the rooftop, where Paz corners him at gunpoint. Instead of firing, Paz hesitates, questioning his orders. Jason dives off the building into the river below, vanishing into the dark waters. Days later, Pamela testifies before the Senate with the damning Blackbrier documents. Kramer faces criminal charges. Noah Vosen and Dr. Hirsch are arrested. Nikki watches the news and smiles faintly when the reporter says Bourne's body was never recovered. Moments later, Jason is seen swimming away, alive and free. But the world of covert operations doesn't rest. In the Alaskan wilderness, a new operative emerges, Aaron Cross. Unlike Bourne, Cross is genetically enhanced through pills known as chems, green for physical strength, blue for mental acuity. His training pushes him to the extreme, surviving icy rivers, scaling mountains, and fending off wolves. Meanwhile, as the fallout from Treadstone and Blackbrier begins to explode publicly after journalist Simon Ross's revelations, CIA leaders scramble. Ezra Kramer, facing mounting pressure, consults retired Admiral Mark Turso. The Shadow War is far from over. Bourne may be gone, but Blackbrier's legacy lives on through Operation Outcome. Meanwhile, in Virginia, retired Air Force Colonel Eric Beyer, an insider who once oversaw covert operations, was notified at the National Research Assay Group in Washington, D.C. Calm and collected, Beyer, who spearheaded the beta program Operation Outcome, quickly coordinated with his team to extinguish an information leak that threatened to expose 4 top-secret programs: Treadstone, Blackbrier, Outcome, and Larks. In London's bustling Waterloo Station, investigative journalist Simon Ross was assassinated before he could publish damning evidence connecting these programs. At the same time, Bayer directed his focus to a private research facility named Steris and Morlanta, where a team of biochemists and virologists were pushing the limits of genetic engineering. Their work enhanced outcome agents' physical and cognitive abilities through the use of specialized pills, known as chems. Under Bayer's strict supervision, Dr. Marta Shearing, a civilian biochemist, collaborated with her colleague Dr. Donald Foyty to ensure outcome agents maintained their enhancements. During this period, Outcome Agent 6 was undergoing a routine evaluation when Bayer discovered a disturbing video online. The video hinted at a link between Dr. Albert Hirsch, Treadstone's medical director, and Dr. Dan Hillcott, Outcome's medical director. Alarmed, Bayer confided in Terrence Ward, a senior VP at Camden Precision Metrics, voicing fears of a possible FBI investigation and Senate inquiry. He knew if the connection came to light, both Treadstone and Outcome would collapse. Bayer resolved to erase all evidence of Outcome, including its 9 active agents. In Alaska, Outcome Agent 5, Aaron Cross, endured grueling survival tests in the frozen wilderness. He trekked through icy terrain, fought wolves, climbed mountains, and battled nature itself. He reached a remote cabin days ahead of schedule, surprising Outcome Agent 3, who had been reassigned there after a forbidden romance in New York. While Cross proved his unmatched endurance, elsewhere the CIA declared a Level 5 national security emergency as Jason Bourne was spotted alive in New York. Bayer acted swiftly. He tricked Outcome agents into ingesting yellow pills, presented as a new medication, but in truth, a lethal poison. One by one, they were eliminated. In Karachi, Pakistan, Outcome 6 collapsed and died. In other parts of the world, more agents perished in silence, their deaths covered up as accidents. Soon after, Bayer escalated the purge. A Predator drone was launched from Virginia to destroy the Alaskan cabin, killing Outcome 3 instantly. But Cross survived. In an extraordinary display of skill, he shot the drone out of the sky, cut out the tracking device embedded in his body, and implanted it into a wolf. When the second drone locked onto the signal, it obliterated the animal instead, convincing Bayer that Cross was dead. Flashing back, we see Cross's history with Bayer in Somalia, where Bayer described agents like him as sin-eaters, men who shouldered the world's darkest tasks to keep others innocent. Meanwhile, Bayer continued covering his tracks. At the Steris lab, Dr. Foyty was chemically manipulated into a violent frenzy. In a horrifying massacre, he murdered several colleagues before killing himself. Dr. Shearing was the sole survivor. Elsewhere, Cross commandeered a small aircraft and resurfaced in Chicago, retrieving a stash of fake identities and passports. When Dr. Shearing prepared to leave for her sister's house, CIA operatives arrived to interrogate and silence her. They posed as psychologists and agents, but quickly revealed murderous intent. Just as they moved to kill her, Cross burst in, dispatching the assassins in brutal fashion. Now fugitives together, Cross and Shearing assumed false names, James and June Monroe. Shearing, who had monitored him for 4 years, revealed she knew him only as Outcome 5. Cross admitted his real name, Kenneth James Kitsom, a soldier from Reno, Nevada, declared dead in Iraq in 2003 after a roadside bomb. His fear was simple. Without the chems, he would regress into weakness.
Shearing explained the truth. The enhancements could be made permanent through a viral transfer procedure. Physically, Cross was already locked in, his strength and stamina permanent. But mentally, he still depended on the blue chems for cognitive focus. To free him, they would need to travel to a lab in Manila, Philippines. News soon broke that Dr. Albert Hirsch had died of a sudden heart attack, sparing him from testifying before the Senate about Treadstone. Meanwhile, Dr. Shearing was painted in the media as a disturbed scientist tied to the bloody lab shooting. Arriving in Manila under false identities, Cross and Shearing infiltrated the Steris facility. There, she injected him with the live virus to finalize his enhancements. Cross fought off security forces before the lockdown, buying time for the procedure. Exhausted and feverish, he endured violent sweats and chills, but emerged free of his dependency.
Their relief was short-lived. The CIA, aware of their presence, deployed their most dangerous asset, LARX-03, a chemically brainwashed assassin from Bangkok, stronger and faster than the already enhanced Cross. The chase through Manila exploded into chaos. Cross and Shearing raced across rooftops, weaved through traffic, and leapt onto buses. LARX-03 relentlessly pursued them, executing precision stunts that nearly ended their escape. In the final showdown, Shearing kicked him during a high-speed pursuit, sending him crashing fatally into a concrete pillar. Battered but alive, Cross and Shearing escaped by sea, finally free but aware the war was far from over. Back at the CIA base, Eric Byer was confronted with a chilling message scrawled across a mirror. It said, "No more." It was left at the local location where Aaron Cross had spent the night, a warning and a clear statement that the hunt was far from over. Meanwhile, Noah Vosen was in a high-profile Senate hearing testifying about the mishandling of Treadstone and the subsequent creation of Blackbrier to contain rogue operatives. Vosen admitted ignorance regarding Pamela Landy's motivations in aiding Jason Bourne, who had accessed sensitive documents without authorization. Despite his admission, Vosen insisted that the damage was contained and no further harm would occur. Outside, reporters swarmed Landy, speculating about her potential indictment. Calm and composed, she silently navigated through the crowd toward her car, keeping her focus. For Cross and Dr. Shearing, now operating under the aliases James and June Monroe, Manila had been just another stepping stone. They traded a stolen Rolex for passage on a fisherman's boat and sailed toward an uncertain future, one they were both eager to explore. Fast forward to the Greek-Albanian border. Jason Bourne, hiding in sunny Greece, was living off the grid, practicing his lethal skills with one-punch knockouts. Clearly, he hadn't lost his edge, but the quiet life was about to end. Meanwhile, in icy Iceland, Nikki Parsons, the hacker extraordinaire, was working with a team of digital operatives to penetrate CIA central servers. Her intrusion triggered alarms at CIA headquarters, where Heather Lee, head of cyber operations, scrambled to assess and contain the breach. With precision and nerves of steel, Lee traced the hack directly to Parsons and realized that Jason Bourne was involved. Her findings confirmed the gravity of the situation. Jason Bourne posed a direct threat to the CIA's latest covert project, Iron Hand. Director Dewey granted her complete operational authority and enlisted a bitter former Blackbrier operative, known only as the Asset, to neutralize Bourne. Back in Greece, Bourne was in the middle of a fistfight, distracted and losing, until he spotted Nikki in the crowd. The sight of her ended the fight instantly. He quickly learned her location and an address, but before he could process, he saw a CIA operative nearby. The game was on. Bourne told Nikki to meet him at the Statue of Athena and sped off, immediately pursued by Alpha Team, who were expertly led into a trap amidst escalating riots. Bourne commandeered a police motorcycle, weaving through the chaotic streets. Bravo Team closed in on Nikki, cornering her, but Bourne intervened, deploying a smoke grenade to crash their car and create an opening. Nikki leapt onto the bike with Bourne, and the chase intensified, the CIA watching anxiously from afar. Using satellite imagery and quick thinking, the Asset positioned himself at the only exit from the streets, rifle ready. Heather Lee's countdown echoed through the control room. 15 seconds. Despite Bourne's warning, the Asset fired, striking Nikki and causing Bourne to swerve violently, crashing his bike. Crawling toward her, he tried to shield Nikki, but another fatal shot found her. In her final moments, Nikki tossed Bourne a key, a final gift of information and trust. Consumed by grief and a burning desire for revenge, Bourne used the key to open a locker at a train station, discovering a safe box containing classified documents. Coordinates within the files pointed him to Berlin. At the same time, a deep dream convention was underway in Berlin. Aaron Kalur, the program's founder, spoke to an audience of tech enthusiasts, advertising the platform as a private social media network. Unbeknownst to the public, Kalur was working with Dewey and the CIA, who intended to exploit Deep Dream for Iron Hand surveillance, a plan that left Kalur uneasy. Bourne arrived in Berlin and contacted an old ally, Christian Dessau, convincing him to decrypt the drive. Hidden malware immediately alerted Heather Lee at the CIA, who notified Dewey. A team mobilized in Berlin, but Bourne had already uncovered shocking information. His father, Richard Webb, had been directly involved in the creation of Treadstone. Bourne's memories flooded back, his father's confession of difficult decisions, and the love he expressed before departing, never to return. Moments later, an explosion revealed his father's car engulfed in flames, lifeless. In a desperate bid for answers, Bourne typed Malcolm Smith into the decrypted files before the laptop went dark. The CIA called, with Heather offering covert guidance. Dewey tried to stall him, but Heather covertly warned Bourne about incoming agents, allowing him to slip away unnoticed. Later, Heather persuaded her superiors to allow a face-to-face meeting with Bourne, hoping to convince him to rejoin the program. She intended to leverage his newfound knowledge, particularly regarding Treadstone, Blackbrier, and Iron Hand. Meanwhile, Aaron Kalur and his tech team discussed removing files that could grant the CIA access to their servers, a last-ditch effort to protect sensitive data. At this point, the stage was set. Bourne was alive, informed, and hunting for the truth. The CIA was scrambling, enemies were closing in, and the legacy of Treadstone, Blackbrier, and Iron Hand hung by a thread. With Nikki gone and Heather walking the line between ally and manipulator, Bourne's next moves would ignite a chain reaction across Berlin and beyond. Following an imposed Justice Department audit, a clear maneuver orchestrated by Dewey, Aaron Kalur instructs his right-hand man to gather every record of his meetings with Dewey as insurance. They prepare for an upcoming event in Las Vegas, determined to stay one step ahead. Meanwhile, Jason Bourne is conducting his own investigation, digging into Heather Lee's profile to understand her motives for assisting him. Dewey, sensing that Aaron is planning something major in Vegas, contacts the asset, instructing him to move to London. Bourne travels to London as well, boldly contacting Malcolm Smith and arranging a meeting. Heather's plan to engage Bourne is underway, with the asset standing by for any complications. Unexpectedly, the asset eliminates two of his own men, quietly alerting Dewey to his autonomy. Dewey seizes control of Heather's operation, declaring no negotiations with Bourne and granting the asset full clearance to execute him. In a bustling plaza, Smith stands with the asset's sniper scope trained on him. Suddenly, emergency alarms echo throughout the surrounding buildings, causing panic and chaos. Bourne spots Smith amidst the confusion and quickly makes his escape. Locking eyes briefly with Heather, he leads Smith through a hidden doorway, demanding answers about his father's motives. Under relentless pressure, Smith confesses that after Jason was selected for Treadstone, Richard Webb abandoned the program and intended to expose the CIA's covert operations. Richard's death had been staged as an attack on America. Before Bourne can process this revelation, the asset, recognized as his father's true murderer, arrives and shoots Smith dead. Bourne narrowly escapes, using electrical cables to land safely. Unbeknownst to the asset, Bourne has acquired Smith's earpiece, allowing him to eavesdrop on Dewey, instructing the asset to head to Vegas with a plan to deal with Bourne. Bourne contacts Heather, who explains that Iron Hand is exploiting Aaron's technology for mass surveillance. She offers to help him take down Dewey, though her motives are partly self-serving. In Vegas, Dewey grows increasingly anxious as Bourne approaches. Heather assists Bourne through airport customs, successfully sneaking him into the city. Disguised and cautious, Bourne plants a tracking device on Heather and instructs her to place it on Dewey.
As Aaron prepares to address the crowd at the expo, the asset readies a glove with someone else's fingerprints.
Intending to execute his mission, Dewey, realizing Heather has aided Bourne, instructs the asset to kill both Aaron and Heather. Just as the asset moves to fire, Bourne intervenes, disrupting the plan. Aaron Keller is shot, though not fatally, and chaos erupts as the crowd flees, giving Bourne the perfect cover to escape. Bourne expertly tracks Dewey to his suite, disabling law enforcement pursuit, and finally confronting him. Dewey claims that Jason's father lacked Bourne's resolve and asserts that he will never find peace until he fully accepts who he is. The confrontation escalates when Jeffers bursts in, shooting Bourne but also being wounded himself. Dewey attempts to fire, only to be shot by Heather. Bourne, realizing Heather wasn't fully complicit, turns his attention to the asset. The assassin has already killed a SWAT member and commandeered an armored vehicle. Bourne commandeers a black Dodge and pursues him through the streets. The chase is relentless. The asset crashes vehicles, tries to force Bourne off the road, and even attempts maneuvers designed to mimic Bourne's own tactics. Yet Bourne counters every move. Eventually, Bourne corners the asset in a tunnel, leading to a brutal hand-to-hand fight. Despite a knife attack, Bourne skillfully disarms the asset and gains the upper hand. He finishes the fight, ensuring revenge for past murders, and walks away, battered but victorious. Meanwhile, Aaron Keller, surviving his earlier gunshot, continues his mission to expose Iron Hand. Heather meets with the deputy director to discuss Dewey's actions and negotiate a fresh start, demanding his position. Later, she delivers Bourne his father's medal, attempting to convince him to rejoin her mission. Bourne remains non-committal but acknowledges her proposition, showing that while he respects her efforts, his path remains his own. Heather later discovers that Bourne had recorded her conversation with the deputy director, capturing her intent to eliminate him if necessary. Bourne departs, striding down a park pathway, free, determined, and once again in control of his destiny. And with that, the story concludes. Jason Bourne remains alive, vigilant, and a force to be reckoned with. His legacy secure, his enemies exposed, and the shadows of Treadstone, Blackbrier, and Iron Hand finally brought into the light. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.